This is Part 2 Episode 139. Caught in a large explosion, Long Haochen was violently shaken, and couldn't keep chasing. On the two sides, Wang Yuanyuan and Sima Xian were long since done dealing with the previous guerrillas, but also sustained terrible after effects, which stopped their advancing progress. The three of them gasped at the same time, and as shock appeared in their eyes, they also became even more serious. The deep purple radiance on Chen Hongyu's body already disappeared after making its appearance. As that deep purple radiance was dispersing, the head of the spiritual temple was standing on a deep purple illumination. That wasn't a form of energy, but a tyrannical magical beast. The appearance of this magical beast alone shook the whole fighting beast field. This magical beast was extended over more than 40 meters, its huge wings unfolded on its back. On its whole body were deep purple scales, and its slender, majestic figure let out an extremely tyrannical dragon might. From its neck came out 4 heads, all of which were dragon heads. Every dragon head had different colored eyes of green, red, yellow and blue color. Looking at this magical beast, Long Haochen couldn't help but have a very queer feeling. Wasn't this magical beast a bit like an enlarged version of Haoyue? It's just that it only had 4 heads, but its atmosphere and cultivation were far above Haoyue's. This was without a doubt a magical beast of the 10th step, and one controlling 4 different elements. That was the contracted beast of the spiritual temple's head, a 4-headed chimera. Chimeras are a kind of dragon, which can be called subdragons. But that's for the 2-headed ones. If they can get their 3rd head, they will be as strong as a real gigantic dragon. And a 4-headed chimera is a magical beast of the antique type, surely in existence of the 10th rank, and standing on the peak of this 10th rank. Of course, 4-headed chimeras wield totally different elements. The same went for this 4-headed chimera of Chen Hongyu's. Its 4 heads may not be peak masters in their own elements, but never forget that the 4 elements produce cumulative effects. Although the holy light element, which is the greatest nemesis of darkness, wasn't present, there was no need to doubt this 4-headed chimera's power. And it had a pleasant name to hear, Xingxuan. Chen Ying'er explained in advance the power of her grandfather's 4-headed chimera. Among all known magical beasts of the 10th rank in history, Chen Hongyu's 4-headed chimera was absolutely in the top 10, far more powerful than the forest boa king Long Haochen's group encountered. Even the Saw Skate King couldn't rival it in terms of total strength. Seated on his 4-headed chimera, Chen Hongyu had a clear, unsightly complexion. He didn't expect Long Haochen's bunch to compel him into fielding his contracted beast in such a short time. This loss of face naturally had to be retrieved. As he proceeded with a muffled chant, the 4-headed chimera launched a blunt offense towards Long Haochen's group. Its immense tail swept across the land like a tsunami, aiming straight at Wang Yuanyuan and Sima Xian. That imposing power and force immediately horrified the three. Simultaneously flapping their spiritual wings, the 3 of them flew without hesitation. Meet it head on. Don't dream, even Sima Xian, who's the most confident in his strength, wouldn't commit such a foolish act. That's a magical beast of the 10th rank, which can eat whole bodies in a mouthful. That tail was about 20 meters long, with bulges growing all over and a sharp end point. One who would be swept by it would at least have his whole skin shred if not die. At this time, the battle already entered an intensified point. Right as Long Haochen's group of 3 rose up, the 4-headed chimera's 4 heads let out their simultaneous breaths, shot like hurricanes of 4 different elements engulfing the 3 of them. The terrible fluctuations of spiritual energy directly shook the whole fighting beast's ground. This wasn't the first time for Long Haochen to be confronting a powerhouse of the 9th step. Facing such a situation, he didn't show the slightest timidity, and once in midair, didn't draw back, but, flapping his 4 wings, launched another instant burst crosscut. In an ear-piercing lacerating sound, that deep blue color appeared once again in the sky, unexpectedly forcibly tearing the 4-colored breaths of the chimera. Wang Yuanyuan and Sima Xian took the advantage earlier to place themselves behind Long Haochen's back, and drew back very rapidly. Long Haochen was left alone in front of the threat. In a flash of golden light, Yating appeared that time behind Long Haochen's back, and immediately, a gloss of whitish gold landed on the incantating Chen Hongyu. Chen Hongyu felt an immense pulling force reach out abruptly. Even his spiritual energy's cultivation was unable to stabilize his body, which was directly heading towards Long Haochen. That was Pull, the enhanced version. Once before, even the Lich King ate a severe loss. The attack he just launched was at full force, not sparing any cost of spiritual energy. Aside from the importance of seizing the initiative, it was also important that he close with Hongyu. His evolved pull ability was simply of too great use against mags. They have a weak body, so if they are at close range, hee. And don't forget that Chen Hongyu promised not to use any weapon or equipment. As expected, Chen Hongyu was greatly started by the pull ability hitting, but the next one to suffer a loss wasn't him, but Long Haochen. In a fierce collision of spiritual energy, Long Haochen was repelled and his dark green and reddish gold two-toned radiances only left two trails on the sky. As expected, Long Haochen's pull ability indeed landed, but don't forget that he still had his contracted beast at his side. A contracted beast, which was able to rise to the 10th rank of cultivation, is not simply an aid in battle. Seeing Chen Hongyu about to enter Long Haochen's attacking range, that huge chimera immediately glinted in purple color along with Chen Hongyu's body. The next instant, a drizzling purple gloss appeared on Chen Hongyu's body. When it clashed against Long Haochen, his body was sent flying over more than 100 meters distance, which naturally stopped the effects of the ability pull. The four-headed chimera bluntly spit another breath, but this time, the four-colored breaths made one, turning into a tyrannical elemental storm rushing toward Long Haochen's group. That was the full strike blow from a magical beast of the 10th rank. Gather. Although Long Haochen was repelled, he hadn't sustained any serious injury. Right after his shout, the others were already done gathering, and this time, a multicolored golden light spread out from the front of Long Haochen's body. The Divine Tool class Divine Snail Shield used the combination of Shield Wall and Divine Obstruction. Bang! An extremely violent explosion was discharged in the beast fighting ground, and the surrounding walls shook intensely. All the defensive formations on the upper walls activated simultaneously, as the terrifying fluctuations of spiritual energy reached the ultimate peak this time. Chen Hongyu's back was still dripping with cold sweat. The previous move was really close. If the four-headed chimera hadn't responded so promptly, he would really have been pulled into Long Haochen's attacking range. Although he's a powerhouse of the 9th step, he's still a mage. If Long Haochen's sword strike had landed on him, he couldn't have borne the damage. The terrifying sword intent accumulated into Long Haochen's two swords was something he could feel deeply. How could he use such a powerful pulling ability? Chen Hongyu was still gasping a bit for breath. The look he had became extremely vigilant. From this point onwards, he won't look down on these 7 opponents anymore. From the looks of it, Long Haochen's group seemed to have suffered a loss, but in actual fact, Chen Hongyu wasn't much better. Under the protection of the four-headed Medusa, he was confident in suffering no attacks from Long Haochen's group, so he went all out in his incantation. But Long Haochen's pull suddenly interrupted that incantation, causing a hard-to-bear magic backlash. If not for his high level of cultivation, he would have just been spitting blood. The thin radiances were on the move in the sky, but the elemental storm could only pass through the two sides of the Divine Snail Shield. This kind of large area attack was the most inefficient against the Divine Snail Shield. Although Long Haochen's spiritual energy was still depleted at a frantic speed, his group remained as safe as houses on the same ground. Right at this time, Chen Ying's incantation was terminated. To a global deep shock, gates filled with immense life force emerged from Chen Ying's back, forming a large row. The instant this magic completed, these gates of light formed another row in the fighting beast ground. A total of 18 gates had appeared in front of Chen Hongyu. That's creature summoning gates. Chen Hongyu and Sanshui Popo on the viewing platform both became dumbstruck. As powerful summoners, they were naturally able to use the creature summoning gate. And with Chen Hongyu's cultivation, he's able to use simultaneously 6 of these creature summoning gates to summon tides of beasts against the demons. At the time of Chen Ying's awakening as the spiritual saint girl, although her cultivation was far from sufficient, this creature summoning gate she could wield since she was young also evolved, enabling her to simultaneously wield 6 of them. But how could there appear 18 of them? In all the records of the spiritual temple, there had never been a summoner able to display the terrifying sight of 18 creature summoning gates. After completing her magic, Chen Ying visibly became extremely tired. Sitting cross-legged at her original location, she murmured some words. Then, the 108 spiritual pellets on her spiritual saint robe lit immediately, supplying back her previous consumption. The greatest use of the spiritual saint robe was as a supply of spiritual energy. In terms of efficiency, it was far beyond compare with Long Haochen's golden foundation armor. Every spiritual pellet had a supply of 10,000 spiritual energy. In other words, Chen Ying's spiritual saint robe could supply 1,800,000 units of spiritual energy. But of course, this had limitations as well. No matter the massive supply of spiritual energy, she was only able to simultaneously wield the amount of her total cultivation. In other words, although being only a summoner of the 7th step, she could in practice use an almost unlimited amount of summoner spells of the 7th step. Of course, that's just in theory, as the full use of magic does not only expend spiritual energy, but also a massive mental force. Without a calm rest, she'd hardly be able to keep performing summoning spells in this battle. These were 18 creature summoning gates. And with Chen Hongyu and Sanshui Popo's abilities, they could naturally tell that these weren't illusions, as each of these ones were for real. When did this girl have so much secrets? Could the ability of the spiritual saint girl be so terrible? Of course, they didn't know that these 18 creature summoning gates weren't much related to her being the spiritual saint girl. It came from her fused spiritual stove, time accumulation. Originally, the 7 who formed Long's group and even Zhong Fangfang too, the exception being Wang Yuanyuan, all completed a fusion of spiritual stoves. What's a spiritual stove? That's a natural treasure, and even acquiring just one is an incomparable source of yearning for any normal practitioner. But Long Haochen's group all completed spiritual stove fusions. At the time Chen Yinger's spiritual stove fusion was completed, it didn't seem so powerful in a lot of eyes, but as her cultivation grew, that spiritual stove of time replication gained in power as well. To wield with 3 times its power one full magical skill, although it could be done only once a day, really had a terrible instant power. Low roars and snarls came out immediately from the 18 creature summoning gates, pouncing on the 4-headed chimera and Chen Hongyu. One could only admit that these creature summoning gates were not much different from before. The magical beasts coming out were still unevenly matched. Some reached the 2nd and the 3rd rank, while some reached the 7th, or the 8th. The most powerful magical beasts to come out reached the 8th rank, just like her cultivation. But the current creature summoning gate was totally different from the past ones. They were real creature summoning gates, which wouldn't terminate after calling out only one magical beast. An almost endless tide of magical beasts came out, frantically rushing out from her gates. In a few breaths, half of the beast fighting field was full of these magical beasts. This instant, even if Chen Hongyu was, in short, great, he's a human, not a god. He knew very familiarly the creature summoning gate. A summoner wielding it fully would be able to maintain continuous surges of magical beasts. The cultivation of the beasts is directly proportional with the summoner's cultivation. But one mustn't forget that as the spiritual saint girl, Chen Yinger has a consequent boost on all summoner magic, for instance, enabling her creature summoning gates to last for no less than twice as long. The fighting beast ground still had a limited space, and a high-altitude flight forbidding magic array. In these circumstances, if Chen Hongyu allowed Chen Yinger's creature summoning gates to wield their full power, he was afraid to not even have enough space to set foot. Not daring to show any more reservations, Chen Hongyu's eyes flickered. Folding his arms, his finger formed special gestures, and low chants followed from him. Immediately a terrible spiritual storm took shape in front of him, and its milky white halation took the shape of an immense dragon's skull, issuing a tyrannical dragon cry. This milky white dragon head was really large in volume, to the extent of even enveloping the massive 4-headed chimera. Along with its violent shout, the milky white radiance swept out like a huge wave. The vanguard of the magical beasts that came out from the 18 creature summoning gates immediately stopped upon contact with that terrible white tide, crawled to the ground and didn't dare get up, full of shivers. At the time this huge white wave made contact with the 18 creature summoning gates, they stopped showing effects, and did not unleash any more magical beast. Beast Emperor Domain. Able to suppress, or boost every magical beast in its scope. Among all domains cultivable by summoners, this Beast Emperor Domain was absolutely ranked among the best ones. Due to the stimulation of the domain, the 4 chimera's massive body inflated once again, letting out a terrible pressure which made Long Haochen close to unable to breathe. That was Chen Hongyu's true strength, as the head of the spiritual temple. Although until now, his only summoned beast was his contracted beast 4-headed chimera, that instant, the whole battlefield became his. In the scope of the Beast Emperor Domain, he was like the controller of 1,000 beasts. As the time of his domain increases, the magical beasts surging from the creature summoning gate will instead enter in his control. Still want to continue? Chen Hongyu coldly asked. He didn't order the 4-headed chimera to keep up the assault, as in the end, he didn't want to wound these youngsters. Such a formidable might should be enough to convince these youngsters to surrender, in his opinion. Of course we are going on. In the midst of recuperating her mental force with her eyes shut, Chen Yinger suddenly opened her eyes, and her body started to float from the ground. This instant, it released a glistening luster of white color, a transparent white. The creature designs on the spiritual saint robes seemed as if alive, moving rhythmically in the midst of that white halation. 108 spiritual pellets blossomed with dazzling light. Her use of the spiritual stove of time replication, to call out 18 creature summoning gates, was for the sake of forcing out her grandfather's Beast Emperor domain. In their battle plans, getting rid of this Beast Emperor domain was her mission. For the sake of going to save Yang Wenjiao, she had already been compelling her comrades to accept her grandfather's challenge. How could she not bear a heavier strain? Only she was really familiar with Chen Hongyu's strength, and the might of his powerful domain. Exhaling a long breath, Chen Yinga chained 3 hand movements, and her eyes turned into an oozing milky white color. A white-colored ball of light gradually taking shape in her hands, she shouted in her cute voice, "Spirit bestowal." The white-colored ball of light, shooting out, directly landed onto her crystal ball floating alongside her. Immediately, the whole crystal ball turned into a milky white color, and immediately, a milky white pillar of light shot vertically, aiming straight for the core of Chen Hongyu's Beast Emperor domain, that immense dragon skull. What a strange sight! Even the so powerful 4-headed chimera didn't dare stand in front of the tiny white pillar. It took a split second for it to land onto the dragon's skull, producing the Beast Emperor domain. A baffling scene followed. The exhaled immense dragon head shook violently under the stimulation of the white glow. Chen Hongyu was shocked, finding out that he became unable to control his own domain. If he didn't withdraw it, his Beast Emperor domain could collapse at any time. A domain wasn't made of spiritual energy, and would recuperate after its use. But in case it is destroyed, its user will suffer severe damage. Wasn't the demon god of death Saminaga a strong enemy? But having the half of his domain of death engulfed by the Tower of Eternity immediately inflicted severe damage on him. Not daring to take risks, Chen Hongyu hurriedly chanted to retrieve his Beast Emperor domain. Immediately a brilliance spread, as the immense dragon's skull gradually shrank. Without the boost from the domain, the 4-headed chimera regained its original size, and the magical beasts on the ground launched their assault. However, after launching that white glow, Chen Yinga's crystal ball let out a ding sound and broke down. She also fell down from the sky, her mental force having gone past its limits, and she lost consciousness. The 18 creature summoning gates, having lost their owner, considered their duty as done, and disappeared in the sky one after another. However, before that, over 100 magical beasts had launched their attack against the 4-headed chimera and Chen Hongyu. In a flash of light, Hanyu caught the falling Chen Yinga and placed her on the ground. Speaking of which, Chen Yinga getting rid of her grandfather's domain was nothing less than an absurd feat indeed. Chen Hongyu's Beast Emperor domain was incomparably powerful amongst all summoner domains, but don't forget whose power Chen Yinga inherited as the spiritual saint girl. That was the mythological beast's power. How could a Beast Emperor compare with a mythological beast? So her use of spirit bestowal could be considered the release of the mythological beast's power. Even the Beast Emperor would tremble in front of that. So in front of Chen Yinga, Chen Hongyu's domain was really inefficient. The fact that Chen Yinga's ability of spirit bestowal could possibly suppress his own domain was told to her personally by Chen Hongyu. At that moment, Chen Hongyu felt a bit torn between tears and laughter. The suppression of his domain made a rapid victory visibly impossible. Long Haochen's team could be considered having sacrificed the battle strength of their summoner of the 7th step in exchange for getting rid of Chen Hongyu's most powerful ability, his domain. What a totally unfair trade. Long Haochen didn't rush to assault. These 100 beasts' attacks were quite fierce, but he couldn't harmonize with them. His figure flashed, getting in front of Chen Yinga. A golden light extended from his right hand as Chen Yinga was teleported inside the Tower of Eternity, freeing them of worries. And at this time Lin Xin's chant, which he started at the same time as Chen Yinga's creature summoning gate, was finally finished. The fire cloud staff was glinting in blue color, and immediately, that blue-colored light underwent continuous changes. In Lin Xin's surroundings a liquid-like blue halation rose, and behind him floated a 1-meter-tall silhouette full of might. The fire cloud crystal pointed forward, and at the direction of the chimera, shot a thumb-wide blue ray. This blue ray didn't give off the feeling of spiritual energy, but seemed like real substance. Everywhere it passed, the air seemed to clearly become fresh and clean, and the fighting beast ground seemed purified of all impurities in a split second. Vulcan's Finger, a powerful fire element single-targeted spell of the 8th step. Vulcan's Finger was ranked among the best fire spells of the 8th step. It not only provided a sufficient supply of spiritual energy, but also required a powerful control to be utilized. That's because the incantation will compress fire essence to the greatest extent, and in case of mistake a terrible backlash will follow, and that terrible power may backfire on the user. To dare launch such a difficult spell of the 8th step at the 7th step cultivation, one could see the extent of Lin Xin's self-confidence. At this time, if Chen Yinga was still sober-headed, she'd understand that it wasn't without basis that Lin Xin felt wronged that day. How could such a formidable offensive power be aimed at his own comrades? A bluish illumination instantly stretched across the whole sky. The four-headed chimera showed a look of disdain, and its fiery red-eyed head let out a red-hot breath of fire. This concentrated breath traced a spiral in the sky, and formed a sort of spinning flame spear, clashing against Vulcan's finger. Lin Xin having used Heart of Fire to form Vulcan's finger, this magic's might naturally reach the peak, even nearing the level of a fire spell of the 9th step. But that four-headed chimera was also a fully qualified powerhouse of the 9th step. Will his move succeed? The instant the blue fire and red fire came into contact, an extremely strange scene followed. The red flames were thoroughly penetrated, and one could visibly see a shadow come out from it, heading for the chimera's body. Lin Xin's strength was obviously incomparable with the chimera, but although this four-headed chimera was a magical beast of the 10th rank, its power was in the end divided amongst 4 heads. Its most powerful aspect was the ability to wield 4 elements simultaneously, as well as to be a powerful magical beast combining both martial and magic prowesses. Its strength in pure magic still fell short compared to a true mage of the 9th step. Against Lin Xin's attack, which was prepared for such a long time, it suffered a large loss. The magic clash came very fast, so the chimera's other 3 heads didn't have the time to come in support. Still, Lin Xin's attack was still greatly weakened by the spit breath, so its damaging power couldn't be as severe. But as a mage, whose contracted beast is like a second life, how could Chen Hongyu stare blankly at his comrade getting wounded? His right hand stretched a finger, pointed forward, and another spiritual pellet image took shape from it, drilling through the chimera's flames to obstruct the way of Vulcan's finger. The greatly compressed blue flames were suddenly attracted by the spiritual image pellet, heading toward Chen Hongyu, which freed the chimera from danger. Chen Hongyu didn't care much about that blue ray. His body was surrounded from beginning to end by twisting waves, which immediately to rapidly disperse that ray. A summoner is originally even more frail than a mage, because they have even less defensive magic at disposal. How could Chen Hongyu have no measure for his own safety? He hadn't forgotten about the vanished assassin, and therefore put in place a very complete defense. His defensive magic currently in use was called spiritual protection, which is a formidable defensive magic combining spiritual energy and mental force. Able to produce an extremely astonishing defensive power, although it doesn't reach the level of the 9th step, it differs very slightly. And more importantly, this magic doesn't deplete much spiritual energy, and can be backed for a long time. Just as Chen Hongyu believed that the power of Vulcan's finger was close to termination, the blue ray suddenly disappeared, but gave way to a black flash of light. It pierced a needle-sized hole in the protective screen formed by spiritual protection, directly thrusting toward Chen Hongyu. No good. Chen Hongyu was in great shock in this situation of danger. He had no thought to spare for saving face and fiercely dodged backwards. A glowing red light smelling of the odor of darkness stuck to his skin, burning a slice of his hair. If he hadn't showed a rapid response, he was afraid he would really be wounded by that move. That greenish-black ray was like a needle of flames, treacherously concealed inside Vulcan's finger, and dug out only when Vulcan's finger was nearly extinguished. It not only had an extreme penetrative force, but was also noiseless. If Chen Hongyu didn't have the defense of spiritual protection to earn some time for himself, he'd truly have suffered a terrible loss this time. Although this level of a strike wouldn't kill someone at his level of cultivation, those fires imbued with darkness would definitely have brought no good results when drilling inside his body. Lin Xin stomped on the ground afar, disconsolately retorting, "So close." Chen Hongyu's sorry figure also astonished Long Haochen and the others, who couldn't help but have a whole new level of respect for Lin Xin. This was not just one spell, but 2 mixed together. And they didn't know where that greenish-black fire needle came from either. Vulcan's finger was originally a spell of higher step, and he unexpectedly used it to cover up yet another spell. From this, Lin Xin's level of control in fire magic could be well seen. It was really extremely fine. Originally, Lin Xin was naturally not making such plot against Chen Hongyu, as that was Chen Yinga's grandfather, but the four-headed chimera. It was by chance that Chen Hongyu redirected it, and almost suffered a terrible loss. "Has drugs, bro? What spell was that?" Sima Xian asked in astonishment. Lin Xin had a mischievous laughter in response. Vulcan's finger combined with Hellfire Needle, wasn't that awesome? Awesome. Sima Xian wasn't stingy of praise in the slightest, and made a thumbs up. Co-joined spiritual boost. Long Haochen shouted loudly. Just as Lin Xin's Vulcan's finger showed stunning effects, Long Haochen summoned Haoyue. This loud shout immediately made everyone react, and except from the still concealed Caia, everyone jumped to Haoyue's back. Where could Lin Xin's Hellfire Needle come from? Long Haochen recorded after pondering, that originally, there had obtained a crown of heritage glinting in greenish-black fire after killing a demon god's successor, which was naturally passed at this time to Lin Xin. As a fire mage, maybe he could find some use for it. And everyone had long since forgotten about this crown of heritage. Now it looked that Lin Xin didn't pour any of his own spiritual energy inside. After all, this crown of heritage was emitting a fierce aura of darkness. If fused inside his heart of fire, it would probably show the opposite reaction instead. In actual facts, Lin Xin made a special magic concealed inside his body thanks to that crown of heritage. Its special fire was able to regenerate autonomously, making an extremely pure corrosive fire. Lin Xin's tolerance was only 3 of these hellfire needles. Through his incessant use of Heart of Fire to refine them and his progress, these hellfire needs were not below a spell of the 8th step. That was his killing weapon, that he had just used for the first time. The previous spell that was completed was only Vulcan's finger alone, but at the last juncture, this needle was poured inside Vulcan's finger. Don't look down on this assimilation. The concealment of a hellfire needle inside Vulcan's finger, without rejection, was even concealed from the head of the mage temple. This level of spiritual energy control can be rated as the work of a grandmaster. Lin Xin showed a control exceeding his current cultivation step. Behind Long Haochen were Wang Yuanyuan, then Lin Xin, Sima Xian and Han Yu, making a total of 5 people, who all swallowed a co-joined spiritual pill. As Long Haochen was standing on the thick neck linking Haoyue's 6 heads, the other 4 formed a row on his back. Powerful fluctuations of spiritual energy passed through his arm, as Long Haochen's imposing manners immediately rose several-fold higher. The conjoined spiritual boost enabled users to boost spiritual energy, and the Golden Foundation armor too. But how do these two differ? It differs in that the conjoined spiritual boosting pills applies to every one of Long Haochen's attacks, while at most the Golden Foundation armor and Star King boost his total storage. The co-joined spiritual boosting applies for a short time, but during this time Long Haochen's offensive power gains a whole level. And that was their present final solution, when facing a powerful enemy. This was Haoyue's first appearance in the battlefield after gaining his 6th head. Lifting all his heads forward and flapping the wings on his back, he let out a snarl while brazenly elevating himself high in the sky. With a light movement, his amethyst-colored scales produced dense purple fluctuations. All 6 heads lifted up. Despite that he was still far from the 4-headed chimera in volume and cultivation, the instant Haoyue appeared on stage, he completely overwhelmed Chen Hongyu's contracted beast in imposing manners. With this howl of fury, a dense purple intent was liberated from Haoyue's body. As it spread to the whole battlefield, he faced the 4-headed chimera, which had just been dealing with those magical beasts that came out from the creature summoning gates. But the instant the purple intent spread, all magical beasts turned their heads to look at Haoyue, including also the 4-headed chimera. Feelings of alarm even exceeding the time of the appearance of the Beast Emperor domain arose in them, and even the 4-headed chimera was no exception. From the outside, Haoyue and the 4-headed chimera had a great resemblance in their multiple heads, wings, and shapes close to dragons. The difference was that Xingxuan's heads looked closer to dragons, or rather had fundamentally the look of dragons, and her scales were a lot more thick. But in terms of color, the amethyst-colored glow coming out from Haoyue's body was even more brilliant. The instant Xingxuan's look gathered on Haoyue's body, this magical beast of the 10th rank immediately halted, and didn't even dare launch an attack at the magical beasts attacking below. The large wings originally maintaining her body floating shivered incessantly, unable to even maintain her massive body floating. With a large bang, it fell to the ground and crushed some lower-ranked magical beasts. This video will end here.